I'm not gonna lie. Going back into Twitter to look for content was a little bit of an interesting thing, but interestingly enough, it's like some of these topics just line themselves up in like a bunch of tweets. So, for this particular episode, I'm supposed to be discussing women and more so the things that will attract or detract them from you, or from some guys. I also do need to point out some shit that annoys me very, very much in this entire thing. And it kind of goes around that whole thing that babes usually say where they're like, we don't dress for men. Because in what I'm about to talk about, at least before I get to the tweets, I'm about to disprove that very, very well. But before I do any of that, I want us to start from the sexier side of things so that, I can deal with the raunchy shit first. Now, I may have just stumbled onto what might be considered as the most dangerous sex position that is currently known to man. And of course, it's a debatable question for a lot of people for different reasons, but I think I might have found the most dangerous sex position, at least by consensus of sorts. And the answer to what position that is actually comes when I discuss a certain story, but first of all, I'm just gonna read its title so that you can kind of get an idea. Now, as the title says, Indonesia man had to undergo emergency surgery after breaking penis performing quote-unquote world's most dangerous sex position. Now, of course, if you were reading this title before you opened up the story, the first thing that you'd be thinking is, but this isn't some sort of shit that people are just putting out there for clout. Apparently, there is actually a thing. Now, let me just read the story for you so that we can get into it. An Indonesian man had to undergo emergency surgery after fracturing his penis while performing a notoriously risky sex position, which left him with a quote-unquote eggplant phallus. The freak accident occurred while the unnamed 37-year-old male was reportedly having intercourse in the quote-unquote reverse cowgirl position, in which the woman is on top facing away from her partner. According to TikTok doctor Dr. Karan Raj, this is the world's most dangerous pleasure pose, responsible for a whopping 50% of fractures. Things went south after the man suddenly heard a loud cracking sound. End quote. Alright, first of all, I'm actually surprised how the guy managed to hear a cracking sound, considering that the dick is mostly supposed to be inside, so where would the cracking sound come from? Then also it's the fact that the penis isn't a bone, it's actually just meat. So I'd be curious to find out where that cracking sound came from because, I'd probably make up a dumb excuse like, I stretched her pussy so hard, like the backbone cracked and shit, because I broke that back. But anyways, that one aside, this whole terminology of world's most dangerous sex position, I don't know, it feels very, very subjective. Yes, you could probably argue this, but first of all, I have a problem with so-called TikTok professionals because a lot of the information that they give you, much as they are actual professionals in those particular industries, can sometimes mostly be for entertainment value and not necessarily like actual factual information. So if you're saying that it's considered the world's most dangerous sex position because of penis breakages, I don't know. I'd probably be a little bit more inclined towards thinking that regular cowgirl, while she's holding a pair of knives, would probably be classified as the most dangerous sexual position. Because if you piss her off, or if she's not enjoying it, or if she threatened to kill you if you don't give her orgasms, you're pretty much fucked if you're not performing at your tip-top shape. And that would probably make sense to me in that particular instance. Although at the same time, maybe he is right about the whole reverse cowgirl thing, because when you kind of think about it, like, if Shorty has a big booty and she's throwing it back, like, that's just something that it does to a man, and, dude can just end up finishing inside, and then, Shorty gets pregnant afterwards, God forbid, if that's not what you want happening, and, all of a sudden your life changes, your single life is over, you're no longer going to be the same young guy that you were before, and now you're probably stuck with a responsibility that you weren't entirely ready or even wanting in the first place. Although, on the other hand, that can even be made a little bit worse. Like, when she whips her hair as she's doing it, and then she looks right back at you. Like, there's just something about that look as she's doing it, with like the look of the booty, that just has a way where it just almost takes control of a man in some way. But anyways, that's just my thinking of it. But anyways, I think I'm going a little too far, especially since I'm supposed to be discussing how, women may or may not be attracted to you. So if I can sort that one out, then getting them to bed would be the next thing. And I think instead of discussing sex, I probably should have started all of this off by saying, welcome to Breaktime on West Side, your number one Breaktime podcast, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. The man on the mic is a man who still wonders which is the most dangerous sex position ever, because some of us are more alive when we're close to death. He's a man who likes his women the same exact way he likes his yogurt. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. The show is Tweet Street, the show where we take a deep dive into Twitter, pull up a couple of tweets, and break them down a little bit. Now, as usual, if you know the drill, you can repeat it after me. If you don't know the drill, it's okay, but even though you do, it's still fine if you repeat it, because it relates to how it is that you can contribute to the making of these episodes via sending in the tweets you'd like me to discuss. And it's a very simple drill. It almost sounds like a song, and it goes like this. You see that tweet, you like that tweet, you want us to discuss that tweet, you send that tweet. You send it to the DMs of @BagakaTheD, which happens to be my personal Twitter handle, and I will take it from there and handle it accordingly. If it is a screenshot or a screen grab from Twitter that ended up on Facebook or on IG, then the place to send it to is @Breaktime on Westside on Facebook or on IG. The DMs are always open, and I will take it from there, and I will handle it accordingly. Now, first things first, before I get into anything, I need to start by giving a good shout out to each and every one of you that listens to this podcast, because y'all have no idea how much I appreciate each and every one of you that listens, and especially the people that give me feedback. Like, I met a guy called Patrick on Monday while I was just running an errand with a friend of mine, and the fact that he just said out of the blues, like, oh shit, I know you from your podcast, and I really, really like the content. Like, that shit warmed my heart so much. It actually made my day. And for each and every one of you that gives feedback, I appreciate each and every one of you. If you comment, if you give feedback, if you read the articles, I appreciate each and every one of you. And, you know, if you haven't been listening, this is a good time to start and continue. And if you have been listening, thank you so much. But all of that said and done, we do need to move into the tweets. But before we do that, I want us to talk about shapewear for a little bit. Now, for those of y'all that don't know what shapewear is, it's pretty much what babes wear to give their bodies a certain distinct shape. And I am going to get into that story because apparently there is a Nigerian company which recently released a silicone-shaped BBL suit. The company, known as Focallure, has been sharing several videos of their latest shapewear garment, which they have dubbed their JBH Realistic Silicone Butt, Hips and Tummy Snatcher. Now, I'm gonna read the article real quick so that I can get into this because we need to discuss this very fast. So it says, and I quote, the company claims that the product will give you surgery body in 2 minutes. In one post, the company writes, no need to go under the knife to slay again. Bye-bye to pain and recovery processes. You can now get your surgery body in 2 minutes. The company adds that the product comes in different skin tones and comes with a realist belly button to make it look real so you can wear it with a crop top. The company also says that their product is very soft, has good elasticity to help stick to your skin and snug to your body. The suit even includes a hole in the groin area for easy toilet use. The BBL, which is made of 100% silicone material, is being offered for 380,000 naira or 480 USD. Since posting the viral videos of the shapewear being shown on and off the body, several social media have shared their opinions. Taking to Twitter, many were left in shock and awe of such a product being made available to women. While many criticized the company and the product, others were here for it. Some women were ready to put a credit card down, and other users agreed that the suit is much safer option than undergoing the knife. End quote. Okay, first of all, I need to start by saying one very interesting thing. Fuck shapewear. Honestly, fuck shapewear. Because this is probably the worst form of just faking to make it that I have ever seen. Like, I am not a fan of BBLs in the first place because I feel like some of them are a little bit overdone. But, you know, that one I can sort of understand. Plus, babes actually go through hard work for that shit. But you're telling me that a babe can simply just put on a suit just to give the impression that she has a big bum so that she can seem a little bit more attractive to me and I'm willing to spend bands on her? I don't know. Like, this is a little bit of a cop-out now to a certain degree, because it's not like y'all want dudes that fake that they have money, that fake that they have style, that fake that they're actually financially stable, because you do not want to be trapped with someone who is in some ways a fraud of who they really are. But y'all are saying that shapewear like this is something that should be allowed, even without the silicone BBL thing. Because there's other versions of shapewear that are there that still give the impression of having a big booty. I honestly think that 99% of all of these versions of shapewear are absolute BS and should be banned from the market. Because, and this is my explanation for it, guys are expected to work hard, guys are expected to put in effort and pretty much work their backs off just so that we can get to a level where we would be considered attractive to other women. But you're telling me that a babe can pretty much throw on some makeup, throw on a weave or a wig, and then throw on a bunch of shapewear just to give the impression that she's this beautiful, high-class, very nicely shaped woman that seems to have perfect genetics, and I'm supposed to be okay with that shit? You know what? Fuck this shit. Personally, I feel like if you are going to wear such a thing, then I honestly feel like you being body shamed is a good thing. Because clearly, it's not even your body. And if you're not comfortable in your body and you do not know how to accentuate your body in a dress, or you cannot put yourself through a gym or through some sort of a diet that can help your body shape itself a little bit better, then I don't see why the fuck you are out there busy trying to pick up some sort of fake body type look trying to appeal to dudes. And honestly, with the way a lot of babes usually talk about how, oh, you know, we don't dress for men, blah blah blah, y'all are the same ones that are busy trying to hit the best look that would attract the hottest dudes, or at least attract the most high class dudes, which is very contradictory to whatever the fuck y'all say. But all in all, if you're having a corset or a push-up bra, I personally think that that's mostly okay. Mostly because I know I can solve that shit just by hitting it from the back. But this shit that's giving you a fake booty and fake hips and fake curves, it should honestly be banned by every single government on the planet. And whereas of these sorts of shapewear should be classified as fraudsters and be charged by the law. But anyways, let me not pop a blood vessel and just get into the tweets, because that's what we came for on this episode. So let us move it on to our very first tweet of this episode. I literally stayed with my ex until I borderline hated him, and that's when it's the easiest to leave. Interestingly enough, I know that there's a lot of babes that do this, and I absolutely hate this shit. I absolutely dislike it, because there's just something about staying in a dead situation that just has never really worked for me. I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing, but maybe it's a them thing. But anyways, I can understand why, like, there's the evolutionary reason for it, you know, maintaining mate value by staying in one relationship and moving to another quickly. Like, that makes sense. But when you look at it in reality, it actually does have some detriments to it as a dating strategy for a lot of babes. Because one, it gives a false sense of the idea of moving on for a woman. Because a lot of women will sort of get this idea that, oh, you know, a babe gets out of a relationship, or she's done, or she's gonna move on. Whether it's getting into a whole phase or getting a different dude, you find that there's some babes that'll almost move between relationships very quickly. And it might sort of imply to younger girls or even their own peers that when you get out of a relationship, you move on to another one very quickly. And yet, there's actually supposed to be a healing process in between, at least in most cases. But you're finding that a babe, just as they normally say, you know, a babe can get into a relationship, get heartbroken, get out of a relationship and move on while still in the relationship, will probably sort of make this seem like a thing. Yet the reality of it is, she sort of went through the heartbreak and had the whole moving on procedure while she was still in the relationship. And the unfortunate reality is, some babes will get out of a relationship quickly and they'll think that they're supposed to have healed fast enough that they can get into another one almost immediately after, which isn't entirely the case. Then, on top of that, you're just in a relationship lying to a guy who probably, if he'd have gotten out of that relationship, healed from it and moved on, would have probably been better, that he's still in a relationship. Which I know it doesn't really relate to babes, but I just find it to be very pointless. Thirdly, in some ways it can actually push for a certain level of infidelity, because a lot of babes that go through this bit where they get to a point where they hate the dude that they're with, yet they could have ended the relationship but they haven't, will in a lot of cases start engaging with another guy on a casual level, or even just flat out cheating with a dude, so that by the time they're getting out of a relationship with their current guy, they already have another guy that they can fall back on. Which in some ways you kind of think about it isn't really the right thing to do, because technically you still cheated on your man. Even though your man was toxic, even though he treated you like shit, even though he was a garbage piece of shit, even though he was all of that, even though he could have even been worse, the fact of the matter is, the moment you start engaging with another dude and you're starting to emotionally connect with them, and hell, it starts to get physical, you're pretty much already cheating on your mans. So technically, even you're on the wrong while you're still in your own relationship. So it's not like you were this perfect girlfriend that you've tried to be this entire fucking time. So in some ways, I can get why a babe would probably want to do that, but I don't think it's always the best thing to do. I can get you wanting to move on quickly, but you can't rush a healing process. Also, I don't see why you need to stay in a bad situation yet you can actually leave, and it's not like you're losing anything. Not unless if this guy is paying your rent, he's bought you a car and you're staying in a good house or some shit, or something equivalent to that. I don't see why you'd stay in a shit relationship knowing very well that you're in a shit relationship. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Not unless if you're married or like if you have kids or some shit. But still, it doesn't really make sense to me if you're unmarried and you don't have any kids and you're in a shit relationship. But anyways, that's just a me thing, and I'll just sort of leave it at that. Maybe the babes can tell me why they like doing this so much and why it might work for them. But for now, I'm just gonna move it on to our very next tweet of this episode. It's easy for men and society to criticize women for having only financial reasons for dating a guy, as the relationship ends when the guy goes broke. I mean, will the men do differently if they were in women's shoes? Honestly speaking, I've never had a problem. Okay, not never, but I recently just got to a point where I don't really have a problem with babes who say that they want a guy who has money. Honestly speaking, you wanting a guy who has means is entirely a you thing. That's your preference, that's what you want, that's entirely up to you. And hell, to some extent, you can even argue out how much you deserve it. But my biggest problem, my number one issue with a lot of the babes that say this isn't actually them talking about wanting a guy who has means, a guy who has money, a guy who's wealthy and all that. It's simply them taking a shit on guys who don't have the means. Like the whole saying, oh, you know, I don't want to date a broke guy, I want a guy who has money. Like, that's entirely a you thing, I don't have a problem. But when you're talking about how broke dudes ain't shit, oh, catch me dead with a broke guy, or just some sort of demeaning thing that goes up against broke guys, like, that's usually where my issue kind of stems from, because a lot of times some babes' ideas of what a broke guy is supposed to look like or what a broke guy is can sometimes be very, I don't want to say delusional, but it's sort of in a bubble somewhere that just doesn't relate to reality. Because when babes talk about a guy with means, they expect dude to be able to spend on them and to do a bunch of shit and to stay a certain lifestyle. But the reality of it is, it might not be the same case for a majority of people, even the ones that could be classified as rich. So you find that a lot of times you're calling people who have means, or even just more means than you, broke, which makes absolutely no sense. But there are babes that will do that. And the bigger issue is that this is a situation that can actually be changed. Like, babes talk about fat shaming, but you guys will shame a guy who doesn't have money, especially a young guy, and call them broke and, you know, call them all sorts of names and say that they're not worth shit. Yet it's something that can actually be changed, in as much as it's even harder than losing weight for some of you. Because you kind of think about it, like, not having money is almost like not having a master's degree. It's not impossible to get it, it's just that the possibility varies from person to person based on different circumstances. You know, the value of it will vary from place to place. But at the end of the day, it's not like it's something that is an impossible situation for everyone to be in. It's just some of the circumstances can hinder some people as opposed to others. But all in all, it doesn't mean that you're any less worthy of good treatment because you don't have it. But anyways, as I was trying to say, there's nothing wrong with a babe wanting a guy with means, because if I was a babe and I was, you know, told that I'm beautiful and I should expect the best from men, I definitely want the best as well. And you know, that would include someone with means and shit. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only thing. So the problem isn't a babe saying that she wants a guy with means, it's taking a dump on guys who don't, and making it seem like it's the only thing that babes should want or that she should want. Because normally a lot of times you find that that's really not what you should want as the only thing or as even the first priority. But then again, considering that I'm not a babe, I can't entirely say too much on this, but I will leave it at that and I will move it on. So on to our very final tweet of this episode. If your woman has become unattractive and irritating and you don't want her anymore, but you don't want to chase her like a dog, just start behaving like a soy boy or a wuss. She will be irritated at your weakness and she will leave. Once she leaves, bang the door. Okay, I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing, but banging the door really? The door's hard. I'd have preferred banging her best friend, but since you brought up the door, like I wouldn't bang the door. It's not really my type. I prefer something with curves and an ass. Doors don't really have that. But anyways, jokes aside, when you look at information like this, especially considering that the person who said this was Amerix, the guy that tells you man up, make sure you dominate and ensure you do your thing real well and like work hard and blah blah blah. Like this seems like very pathetic information to give people. Like it doesn't even classify as advice, because why would you turn into that and yet you're supposed to be dominant enough to stand up for yourself and be like, you know what, I am tired of this relationship and I want to end it. Why not do that? Because I'm thinking about it from a reputational sense and the long-term sense, and that shit kind of works against you. Because if you decide to act like, a wuss or a soy boy or some shit, on one end, if she's talking about you to her friends that might have been attracted to you, or even her friends' friends who might have been attracted to you, then they also lose interest in you because you're a wuss and you're clearly not as attractive to them anymore because women talk. On the other hand, if she doesn't notice that you've become a wuss and loses respect for you, she could start shagging someone else while she's still in the relationship. Like, when you kind of think about it, if you decide to be a wuss or a soy boy, it actually kind of works against your favor. So in one way or another, whether or not you'd like to admit it, acting like a wuss, and especially the fact that you have to act like one, is probably some of the shittiest advice that you can get from another dude. It would probably even be better for you to just stand your ground, go up to the babe and be like, you know what, much as I love you and this relationship has been what it is, I'm honestly tired of it and I don't want it anymore, and you just end it there and then. Like, at the end of the day, if you can be harsh like that, it can actually end up looking better for you in future because you're someone that acts on how you believe and you stand your ground on stuff that you actually do believe. I don't know, I definitely expected better advice from this guy than this piece of shit. We could have had much better things, we could have strategized over much better things, but becoming a wuss? That's how you end up pushing her towards someone else shagging her while she's still in the relationship, or just her definitely losing respect for you and even becoming more irritating to a degree. But anyways, I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing, maybe I'm wrong. I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open. On Twitter, it is at BagakaTheD. On Facebook and on IG, it is at Breaktime on our side. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.